Hello everyone, Blue Star Saber here once again with another Percy Jackson review. Season 2, Episode 7, I Go Down the Ship. This episode follows the last one where we see Percy and Annabeth try to rescue Grover and retrieve the Golden Fleece from Polyphemus. But they end up learning that Clarice is also there, but also that Grover and Clarice try to warn them that it's a trap. Percy gets caught in the trap. Annabeth tries to distract Polyphemus with her invisible cap and pretending to be nobody. Gets injured. Luke has arrived, and in order to save Annabeth's life, Percy gives him the fleece, and meanwhile, but Luke leaves them trapped and takes Annabeth with them. And Tyson comes in to save the day, defeating Polyphemus, and as the crew escape with the help of Tyson's rainbow hippocampus, if you will. So let's see, Rainbow and his hippocampus friends. So with all that said and done, we are now going to be having this episode to see how Percy and his friends will try and get Annabeth back, as well as the Golden Fleece. The episode starts off with a dream of Annabeth remembering when Thalia sacrificed herself against the three fates, where we then cut to what happened after, where the tree is now taken her, where she's now become the tree, as Chiron is given an eulogy of how Thalia sacrificed but had reborn a new life. Luke seems a bit upset and outraged by this, but suddenly hears Thalia's voice as you see golden cracking, implying that implying to Annabeth that the Golden Fleece can do much more for Thalia, but she realizes that she's stuck on the Princess Andromeda, where the original show character Alison Sims has arrived. Not as she pretends to be asleep, as Alison takes the fleece from Annabeth, and we then cut to the scene where we see that the Princess of Andromeda is docked in a place called Montact, where one demigod by the name of Adian, who is apparently a son of Aphrodite and has the ability to charm seek, is trying to convince the harbor master to allow the dock for repairs. He's protesting, but it seems gets his way. Tyson, using his voice mimic thing, copies Alice and Sims. As a result, Clarice is able to knock the guy out. They take his favor card. Percy and Clarice argues of what to prioritize first, Annabeth or Annabeth or the fleece. Percy seems to win at the first, when seems to make it look like he's persuaded Clarice with the whole using her own prophecy about fair without friends, but Clarice eventually snaps the card from Percy at the end and goes to get the fleece by herself, while Percy tells Grover and Tyson to find a way of a means of escape, while he finds another card to try and recover the fleece, if you will. So but yeah, rescue Annabeth and then go after the fleece, since he wants to prioritize rescuing Annabeth first, since he figures that if the fleece is taken, the alarm will go off. But yeah, anyway, we then cut to where Luke is back inside his suit, where Kronos' tomb is, if you will, where he's holding the knife that Annabeth has, where the Allison scolds Luke for prioritizing Annabeth over a mission to rescue Kronos, saying that she's a traitor. After he's pointing out a few things that Annabeth has done, such as knocking her off and trying to blow up the ship. This seems to convince Luke to finally put the fleece on Kronos' sarcophagus. Sorry, I must be speaking a bit too fast, I realize, but where I'm going. But yeah. Anyway, Percy sneaks aboard, knocks out traps a demigod, who's taking care of Blackjack, and decides to after hearing the Pegasus decides to rescue him. They have a little bit of a conversation. You only hear Percy's end, but he learns that okay, the horse is named Blackjack. So yeah, we've got that. So but yeah, let's see. Anyway, as this is happening, Clarice is of course. Percy does tell Blackjack to stay quiet while he attempts his own mission, if he wants to escape. But yeah. Anyway, Clarice takes her own mission to find, the fleece and ends up heading to the armory, where she's looking at some weapons before a bunch of demigods and a Lasterian giant enters. And we learn because apparently Ritzy Grover earlier tried to contact Camp with Iris message but couldn't work, but it seems like Zeus has cut all contact as these demigods are showing Ritzy talking about that. And some are showing fear of Zeus, but others are saying like we don't need to fear him now since we're with the Titans. But anyway, they decide to play with myth or magic cards, particularly from the Aphrodite Sun's deck, and apparently has some very rare cards. And this keeps them Khaleesi there in the armory, and she has no way of escaping without getting caught by the demigods or the giant. Anyway, Percy eventually finds Annabeth as she's trying to struggle to release herself. He cuts her free and informs her that Grover's safe and Clarice is getting the fleece. Annabeth says that, getting the fleece is more of a priority, showing that let's see some similarities that Clarice and Annabeth sort of have of what to prioritize. So let's see. But before the conversation can continue, Percy has to put on the invisible hat, and Luke comes to check on and check on her, talking about Cronus' healing. Thanks to let's see, Percy. Let's see what Annabeth's trying to say that Percy was trying to help a friend, not let's see, help some sort of cause for Kronos and all that stuff. But let's see. But as they're sort of arguing, Percy tries to sneak away, but Luke suspects something, so tells his two demigod escorts to keep track. Now, granted, I don't think I see what happens to them afterwards, but yeah. Anyway, Tyson manages to hotwire a truck, but neither of them know how to drive. And apparently, Tyson can't really drive, and neither can Grover. And they're saying that Percy doing it is a bad idea. With eventually Tyson suggesting that he needs to seek a wise person, which they end up. Turns out to be Sally Jackson, of course, who is currently shopping in Montauk. And at first, Tyson and Grover try to not play that they're on a dangerous crest, but Sally suspects something. Talk about, I've been a mother to a demigod for 13 years and a Cyclops for 1, and you get this sort of funny moment where the grocery store woman, the retail work, if you will, is moving the basket away, thinking, okay, this woman is crazy. So, but nevertheless, Sally gets the whole story. Anyway, we then cut to Alison Sims, who is reading a magazine, and it looks to be like one of the Huntress of Artemis magazines, where Kronos gives her orders to kill Annabeth, and she obeys. And granted, we don't realize this at first until she tells the other demigods in the army, but I'll get to that in a bit. As Annabeth is trying to persuade Luke to let her take the fleece, but he's saying that no, this caused the death of all those demigods, as he thinks with the barrier weakening, the demigods will surrender and join their cause. But Annabeth tries to tell Luke that the golden fleece can actually, since her dream, she realizes that the golden fleece can actually cure Thalia, if you will. Luke doesn't want to believe her at first, but she said, then go tell Kronos. And while this is going on, Kronos starts talking to Luke and gives him orders to go back to his suite, if you will, because Percy Jackson's going to be there. And As to this point, Annabeth now starts to get out of bed, preparing herself, taking her dagger, if you will. Alison, we then cut to like where Clarice is again, where Alison's telling the other demigods that she's been given orders to kill Annabeth, and they wonder like, what about Luke? But she's like, this is Kronos, so we'll kill her, and if we have to kill Luke, so be it. But so they're all prepared to go, and Clarice, he changes priorities to go and save Annabeth, if you will. But I'll get there more in a moment. So but yeah, so that happens. Anyway, Percy arrives where Kronos is. Kronos tries to persuade him to join him, even tempting him about, he knows the great prophecy. At first, Percy doesn't seem like he believes, but then Kronos reverses the sort of half of the prophecy about a demigod reaching 16 against all odds and a city of endless sleep or something, if you will. But before he could go like more critical parts of the prophecy, Percy takes the fleece and Luke arrives, and they start, of course, fighting, and they end up fighting a bit. Meanwhile, Alison Sims' group is trying to find Annabeth, but Clarice kills the giant, and then she fights all 5 demigods, getting that sort of awesome line said, 5 against 1. I like the odds. Eventually, one of the demigods also tries to kill Annabeth when he sees her after being thrown by Clarice, but Annabeth knocks this one out. Percy is able to take the fleece and then knocks the sarcophagus down, which Luke has to hold to keep safe. But I think Percy's also dropped Annabeth's Yankees cap, I believe. And as he's trying to flee from the elevator, Luke stabs him, which he uses the fleece to do. Once all the demigods are knocked out, Annabeth and Clarice talk, with her being surprised that Clarice came for her, but she decides to shift priorities once she knew Annabeth's life was in danger, thinking that they can now go to get the fleece, but Annabeth says Percy going to get it, which she doesn't believe Percy can, but then the alarm goes off and she sort of denies it. Percy runs to the sort of like open deck. The demigod that he trapped there and a bunch of others try to ambush, not ambush her, but it's actually Clarice and Annabeth. But Blackjack comes in, knocks out the sort of Pegasus, sending some of them flying off the shore. Percy ends up telling them that Blackjack's a friend, and then decides that to give the golden fleece to Clarice and take Blackjack to sort of like fly away, apologizing to try and use the prophecy against her, but realizes that with the last line of prophecy, without friends to help her fly away to do the quest, she cannot succeed. So they do that, since she would be the most determined to get back to camp. Anyway, Percy and Annabeth leave the ship. Reuniting with Grover and Tyson, and Percy learns that his mother has come around to take her away, which is first questions, but everyone tells him to get in. And they drive to camp as Annabeth and Grover excited about the prospect of Fry coming back, but Sally Jackson sees that Percy isn't so much, as he's thinking of like the vision he had of Clarice striking him with lightning, thinking that if Clarice returns, she's likely to kill him. Meanwhile, Luke is sort of confronting the sarcophagus of Kronos, saying, why didn't you tell me about Thalia's tree and that it could be healed? But Kronos uses this sort of mind thing on her side, prove your loyalty. And Luke tries to assess that he's a loyal follower, and he says to prove his loyalty, he needs to go get the fleece and kill Percy Jackson, ending the episode. So yeah, that is the episode. First of all, I will admit this episode changes quite a lot from the books of like some of the things that go down. I do like how we get more of like the sort of the flashback and the aftermath of Thalia's sacrifice, with Chiron talking about what Zeus has done to the tree, but Luke just seems to be completely against this. But of course, this is just a vision that Annabeth's having. I do like how she tries to play that she's still not unconscious when Alice Sims comes to take the fleece. I do like, speaking of Alice Sims, I do like how she throughout the episode is sort of seemingly starting to get at odds with Luke about Utah's like of her being too of like him being too much attached to Annabeth, if you will, and like questioning loyalties, not stuff, and even like willing to kill him if he gets in the way of like her later orders of killing Annabeth, if you will, which I do like. Arguably, she's the much. You can probably tell that she is arguably the more committed between her and Luke to Cronus' cause, because Luke, at the very least, just was shown throughout this episode and last episode, he still has some like attachments to Annabeth, and to some extent Thalia, but of course he doesn't think Thalia, is alive, if you will. So there's that. We end up getting a new demigod character. Let's see, Aiden, who is a son of Aphrodite, which, okay, it's an interesting change of pace of having a son of Aphrodite sort of like become a part of Luke's army. I mean, we never got any confirmed, let's see, Aphrodite children on, well, besides, I guess, Selena, but she was forced to be a spy, if you will. But I do, makes me wonder, are we going to get Selene down the line? Because, well, Selene, Benregard, and the Still brothers, despite appearing in this book, have not actually appeared in the show this season. So I do wonder if they're going to be saved for later, because particularly, let's see, Benregard and or Ben, if you will, and Benji, I guess, but I guess I can't remember the nickname Selena gave him. But him and Selena play a very pivotal role in the last Olympian. So I am very curious to see and they show up. But nevertheless, we got this son of Aphrodite. Granted, I'm not sure about him having charm speak, because granted, I guess it really depends. I mean, granted, given the fact that we saw like Hela in the last earlier in the season, if you will, with with Cersei's Spa, I am wondering if they are going to try and do Heroes of Olympus after like the Percy Jackson, the Olympians, if you will, which I would be all board for that. For that book series to get a season, to get a television show. But I'm wondering, given the fact that Piper McLean that's her main ability as a child of Aphrodite, and the only other one that has it is that was it Lucy, or that half sister of hers that's very shallow, if you will, who's like the cabin head, but only they seem to be having charm speaking. It's supposed to be rare with Aphrodite children. I'm wondering if just giving this one Aiden charm speak might sort of devalue just the ability of charm speak, if it feels like many more children of Aphrodite can get it than what seems to be the case. But who knows? But granted, so you get some funny moments like, oh, this is going to be taking down camp's going to be easier than we thought, but who seems to be very committed to the cause. But who knows? For all I know, he might show up later in the next episode, because that's implied to be a final battle, and he might end up biting the duck bucket in that episode. I have to wait and see what's the fate of this character, or it could just be a one-off character. Who knows? But I guess it's like, I'm not entirely on board with him having like charm speak, if you will. I do like how Percy and Clarice are sort of arguing about prioritizing the fleece and the or Annabeth first, and arguably Annabeth seems to be more on Clarice's side initially, if you will, when she does get rescued with Percy. But I do like how Percy's trying to use logic of like rescue Annabeth first, so when we see the fleece, there won't be alarms, make it harder to rescue her. But of course, Clarice says like the fleece comes priority, but arguably you would probably think that logically, but Clarice is more of the right one. But Percy does make a few good points, though. Granted, I will admit, it's a bit dark of him to try and threaten Clarice that without friends you won't complete the quest if you're given her prophecy. But yeah, but 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 it seems like this was mostly done just so that she could swipe the card, and then of course Percy comes back and later and apologizes when they do actually for the prophecy and realizes that okay, she needs her friends to help her and to fly off alone. So I do like he does apologize for trying to use the prophecy against her, if you will. I suppose that's a good way of like making that prophecy a bit more relevant in this episode, since we all know the full details of the prophecy since they showed it earlier. I will admit, I was a bit worried when Kronos was spotting the great prophecy, but he only did the first two lines, which okay, we knew that person needs to reach 16 beforehand. The world endless sleep, that's vague enough that no one's going to guess what that going to be is if they only like watched the show and not read the books. But if the other two lines were like, it's like, yeah, you ruined the big spoiler and all that stuff, and that's not, I don't think that's acceptable. So, yeah, I do like that. That prophecy. If they had to reveal hints of the prophecy beforehand, it was not the full thing. Both as Kronos showing what he knows, towards Percy Jackson to try and get him to join, but of course Percy is not going to be persuaded by Kronos. And it seems to be Kronos just like afterwards being realized that okay, killed Percy Jackson. So it's like he's given up on trying to recruit him, even though Percy realizes that you need me for the great prophecy or something. But yeah, though granted, perhaps Kronos is perhaps only trying thinking like, failure might be a better choice after all. But yeah. So I do like that. One part of the episode I thought was weak is just the Tyson and Grover stuff of just trying to get like a means of escape. Let's see. Okay, makes sense, I guess, for Tyson to know how to hop a car, given his knowledge of machinery, if you will, and other things, and forging because he's a Cyclops. But I do like how he. But I will admit, I do kind of like how he thinks that Sally's the wisest person, and I do like how she realizes that both Tyson and Grover are trying to lie their way out, like saying, "Oh, this is a field trip we're on," but it's like, no, I know it's been a mother for demigod for 13 years, which I will admit that retail worker reaction was priceless when she heard that, thinking that this woman was crazy. I was like, well, was she joking or something? But like, still, like, can't trust her for it not being crazy. But yeah, so I do like seeing. I guess I do like Sally's moments in here, even though I think like Tyson and Grover were kind of wasted this episode. Interestingly, these two seem to be like getting along and not intimidated by each other, as we know in the Battle of Labyrinth. So I'm wondering how their dynamic is going to play in that, if it's not going to be they're both scared of the other. So, but yeah. Let's see what else. I do like how Percy tricks a demigod into with like Annabeth's cap, and then cap, and then goes to free Blackjack, which I suppose I do like how he realizes that Blackjack is a male in this, because in the original books he ends up thinking it's a female one. But granted, I can't go a bit crying. Or Percy Jackson fans just claimed that okay, he just couldn't tell the difference with the gender of the horse back then, but no, it's here. And I do like how the horse takes out a few demigods, particularly the one that was being like the stable girl, being like the stable that manages her and all that stuff. But I'm getting ahead of myself on that. But yeah, I do like how Mythomagic was played with the demigods in the armory. I do like how Clarice is of course prioritized the mission, but once learns that Annabeth's life is in danger, goes to rescue her, showing that at the very least Clarice does have some form of care for her fellow cabin mates, at least, very least Annabeth at least. Percy, I think she's still used to, but I do think after the conversation, after Percy gave her the fleece, they started to become friends, whether they like to admit it or not. So we'll have to wait and see in that regards. I do like how Annabeth tries to persuade Luke to this fleece can be used to heal failure, but he's like doesn't want to believe that or complete denial. But of course, goes to confront Kronos about this afterwards. Of course, Kronos isn't going to let him have his way and like forces him to kill Percy Jackson, which, to be fair, after the last encounter, even though he was singing praise for Percy helping them earlier, he is getting in the way, and he did take the fleece, so, and even broke to the stand sarcophagus is on, so yeah. But I do like the fact that Percy and Luke are fighting a bit. Granted, Luke stabs him at the end, which, okay, I don't recall if that happened in the books, but we do know that, Luke actually had the advantage of that fight, and then Chiron and the other centaurs came in to save the day. Of course, that's not happening. Instead, it's Sally Jackson. But I do like how Luke is able to stab Percy, and he uses the fleece to recover, showing that Luke is still arguably still the better fighter in the end, even though Percy was fleeing with the fleece at the time. So, yeah. I do like how it was simultaneously with like Clarissa's moment when Tisha was taking on 5 demigods. So that is good. What else? Let's see. Well, I can think of is a bunch of few Easter eggs, such as Myth and Magic. Let's see, the Huntress magazine, stuff like that. But yeah. But I will submit, it's a bit of a. I will admit. Let's see. I will say one difference in the book I'm a bit disappointed in is that there's not more monsters around, or actually just a few demigods. But I guess when you got like the show's budget would have gone overboard if they tried to include all those monsters. But I don't know, it's still kind of disappointing. But yeah. And I do like how Percy seemingly is having troubles accepting Faria's back. Arguably, you'd think it's like, I'm going to be replaced, but it seems in the show they decide that he fears that Faria's going to kill her or something and join Kronos. At least that's what I assume it's going to happen. But whether or not, let's see, we'll get any more than just because the book ended on a cliffhanger of Faria coming back to life, but we're going to see. I'm curious to see if we'll get something similar with let's see, Percy and in the show, but as with the books, I guess even to see monsters to an extent. So, but yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, overall, I'd say it is a decent episode. I think I like Percy freeing Blackjack. Her and Clarice arguing, but then eventually sort of becoming friends when Percy realizes that she needs to actually complete the quest. Annabeth and Luke's talk. Let's see, seeing Faria's tree in the flashback and seeing just how Luke, and to some extent, Annabeth feeling. Let's see, though, granted, she's more of a teenage self inside that memory, but yeah. And now she tries to get Luke to try and give her the fleece and all that. Clarice having a bit of a character arc of prioritizing the fleece, but then changing to help Annabeth when she realized her life is in danger. Fighting, I think, was pretty good for the episode for what it was. I feel like Tyson and Grover were sort of wasted this episode, and but yeah, arguably, so 8 to 9 out of 10. I think pretty decent episode, even though it's short, I will admit. And I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. And there's a few changes from a bit too short, and a few changes I'm not sure I think work for the better, or let's see, feel like some things are missing due to budget restraints. But yeah, overall, I'd say it is a good episode for Percy Jackson. Very different from the books, which I will admit I was a bit disappointed that we didn't get that sort of, let's see, Percy using the iris methods to get Luke to accidentally confess he poisoned the tree, which here in the show they've made it so that Zeus has blocked that, which is a shame. But I'd say I would like to see that conversation adapted, but I don't think we're going to ever see it. So, but yeah. But overall, I would say it is a very good episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this season is going to conclude in the end. With particularly, is Percy going to feel like concern for Faria? How's the final battle going to go down? Is Luke actually going to try and attempt to kill Percy? And all that stuff. But yeah. But overall, a good episode, and I expect we'll probably also see Chiron again, since I was a bit surprised with the flashback here, but better than nothing, I guess. But yeah, so yeah, it's going to be Luke's demigods and giant monsters versus like Percy and his demigods at Camp Half-Blood. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, I'm going on long enough, so bye everyone for now, and I'll see you all next time.